How Norway became the biggest thorn in the Brazilian national team's side. Everyone knows that Brazil has already lost to major national teams like Germany, France, and Argentina. But there is an opponent that almost no one expected to become a true nightmare for the Seleção. Norway. Yes, a country with just over 5 million inhabitants ended up doing something that several football powerhouses never managed to achieve. In 2026, they eliminated Brazil from the World Cup and maintained a historic unbeaten streak that has lasted for decades. The question is, how did this happen? And why does Norway, of all teams, always seem to complicate life for the Brazilian national team? The story is much more curious than it seems. When we think of Norway, snow, fjords, Vikings, and breathtaking landscapes usually come to mind. Football rarely makes that list. After all, for decades, the country was never considered a powerhouse in the sport. Meanwhile, Brazil built the greatest history in world football, with 5 World Cup titles and a reputation that commands respect in any stadium on the planet. That is why, when the 2026 World Cup draw placed Brazil on Norway's path, most fans believed it would be just another step toward the quarterfinals. It seemed simple, but it wasn't. The Norway of 2026 was completely different from that of years past. The national team had grown immensely. The main person responsible for this transformation went by the name of Erling Haaland, one of the most lethal strikers in modern football. Strong, fast, decisive, and with a terrifying eye for goal. Alongside him was Ødegaard, the brain of the team and the one responsible for making the game happen. While many only saw Haaland, Norway's strength lay precisely in their collective play. This is where it gets interesting. Brazil stepped onto the pitch carrying the full weight of their tradition. Norway entered without that burden. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. Those who have nothing to lose usually play much more freely. You know how it is. Pressure weighs much heavier on the favorites. In the opening minutes, Brazil tried to control the match through possession and individual talent. The strategy seemed to work. But Norway had a very clear plan: defend with organization, exploit spaces, and accelerate every time Haaland received the ball. And it took just one opportunity. Haaland showed exactly why he is considered one of the best center forwards in the world. With just a few touches, he turned a chance into a goal. Brazil responded, chased the equalizer, and got back into the game. The fans believed the weight of the jersey would prevail once again. Except Norway kept playing the exact same way. Without desperation, without changing their style, waiting for the right moment. In practice, it was a true masterclass in tactical discipline. While Brazil tried to solve everything with pure talent, the Norwegians stuck precisely to the plan drawn up before the match. Every player occupied their space. Every counterattack looked rehearsed. And it was exactly during one of these attacks that Haaland appeared once more. Second goal. Silence among the Brazilians. An explosion of joy among the Norwegians. The upset was unfolding right before the eyes of the entire world. But perhaps the most impressive part wasn't even the elimination itself. It was the fact that this victory extended a jinx that had already existed for decades. Norway remains one of the extremely rare national teams that has never lost to Brazil in senior men's international matches. An almost unbelievable record when we talk about the greatest national team in football history. It feels like a coincidence, but after so many games, maybe it isn't. The result also marked one of Brazil's earliest World Cup eliminations in recent history. For a team accustomed to playing in semi-finals and finals, falling in the round of 16 was a massive blow. The pressure on the players, coaching staff, and directors mounted immediately. Once again, the old question surfaced: does Brazilian football need to change? Meanwhile, Norway was celebrating one of the greatest moments in its history. For the first time, Many football fans around the world began to see the Norwegian national team in a different light. It was no longer just Haaland's team. It was an organized, competitive side capable of defeating any opponent. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson of this story. In modern football, tradition helps. The jersey carries weight. Star players make a difference. But none of that guarantees a victory. Organization, discipline, and confidence can topple even giants. That is exactly what Norway did. They didn't just win a game. They knocked out one of the tournament's biggest favorites and reinforced a historic record that has already entered